Okay, hello. Tuesday, April 19th. Let's get down straight to the news reviews. No reason to lollygag. So, this is alarming. Oh, wow, 4 hours ago. Breaking news! New discover in our solar system changes everything. Let's check this out.
Scientists have always tried their best to know more and more about this universe, which is just perfect. Hundreds of missions have been launched into space by NASA and other organizations to better comprehend the universe. During these missions, they came up with some of the most strange things.
Okay, there they go with the propaganda. Right off the top, they go start mentioning NASA and other organizations. Now, NASA and any organization, I've said this and explained it over and over. NASA, ESA, and all of those other space agencies, okay, all of those other space agencies are part of UNUSA, the United Nations of Outer Space Affairs. So, this is propaganda right off the top, and let's continue.
And one such gathered data got them to the results that became the basis of a new discovery. A giant bubble encapsulating us. What exactly is this bubble?
Oh, no! Oh, is that the dome? And it's not half a dome. It's a full dome. It's a snow globe dome.
Form, and why are we trapped inside? These are the questions in everyone's mind, but not after this video. Join us as we take you ride.
I explained this to you guys before. There's different names for it, I guess. Is this called the Heliopause or the Heliosphere? And there's different names for it. And even around this is around the solar system, and then so what they're saying that even around Earth, Globus Earth. There's the Kármán edge. That's another bubble. Okay, that's another bubble. And then and then underneath that there's the ozone layer. The globes are full of globes. They're like all kinds of globe. They're like full on globe.
The biggest bubble ever in this universe.
I mean full on dome. What am I saying? Globe. Yeah, full on dome. They're like domed up all the way around. Bubbles are domes basically, except that they're just different. I don't know. Are they trying to say that that this bubble is like a bubble that we see out of soap and water, or is this like like a globe, like one of those snow globe domes? Is it made out of glass? Is it a glass dome?
In November 2018, Voyager 2, after its 41 years of epic voyage, finally crossed the boundary that marked the limit of the sun's influence and entered interstellar space. However, entering interstellar space didn't finish its job.
There's the bubble!
It started sending data from outside the solar system.
Snow globe at 1 minute and 5 seconds by Techland with 666,000 subscribers. 66,600 subscribers. Oh, this is just too good to be true. Oh, wow, this is just too good to be true. Globies, you guys got some explaining to do. Gravity.
The data was not what astronomers had expected. Instead, it baffled them. As Voyager 2 moved farther and farther from the sun, it found out that the density of space was increasing. However, it was not the first time the Voyager felt the density gradient. 6 years before that, Voyager 1 entered interstellar space and felt the
you globeheads are dense.
same thing that was now being experienced by its fellow craft. This gave scientists the proof that Voyager 1 was right, and there is something in the space that is creating a density gradient. To understand it further, first you need to know the space boundaries. The solar system's edge can be defined by a few
Show me
different
the
boundaries.
edge.
Of these, what Voyager probes crossed is the Heliopause. This boundary is defined by the
Show me
solar
the
winds
edge,
that are
glow
coming
tarts.
from the sun, the center of our solar system.
Wow.
The solar winds stream in all directions, and the heliopause is the point at which the outward pressure of the solar wind is no longer powerful enough to push into the wind from interstellar space.
Push?
The space
In
inside
space?
the heliopause is the heliosphere, and thus we can say that it's in the form of a bubble. Now, you might have been thinking
God,
that
this is
space
horrible.
is a vacuum. Spoiler alert, it's not completely. There, the density of matter is extremely low, but it still exists. The solar wind has an average proton and electron density.
So it's not a vacuum anymore. I hope you Globetrotters are keeping track of breaking news reviews. Because your pseudoscience crap is just falling apart. It is so stupid. Jesus, this is stupid as hell. Oh my God, this is horrible. Heliopause, heliosphere, the edge, bubble, space bubbles. Oh wow, the vacuum is not a vacuum now? Oh my goodness. This is really bad for you, Globies.
Density of 3 to 10 particles per cubic centimeter in the solar system, but it decreases as you get further away from the sun. The decreased density goes down to around 0.002 electrons per cubic centimeter in the outer heliosphere. As Voyagers moved away, there should be a decrease in density, but what they found was strange. While crossing the
your bubble,
heliopause at a distance of 122.6
That's a snow globe, yo.
units, Voyager 1 detected a plasma density of 0.055 electrons per cubic centimeter, and Voyager 2, at a distance of 119.7 astronomical units, found the plasma density of...
Okay, I already explained the dark waters above. That's biblical. This is hilarious. This is hilarious, guys. This is the dark waters above. This is biblical crap right here. Wow, you Globies are falling apart so bad. This is falling hard, falling fast. Wow, this is bad. You guys, like, literally, it's getting really nonsensical and fairy tale-ish now. This is literally biblical. It's the same thing. The dark waters above. That's what before God said, "Let there be light." His face was upon the dark waters. That is straight biblical. Okay? This is crap.
0.039 electrons per cubic centimeter. This raised the question of what has caused such an increase in the density. But before we answer the question, there is another thing you need to understand. We have this one heliosphere bubble, and there is an even larger one that encapsulates the smaller one. A quick question. What would you say if someone told you that the space around our solar system is a void and does not contain any intergalactic dust, gas, or clouds? Maybe you call them crazy, but they are right. Recently, astronomers at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, or CFA, and the Space Telescope Science Institute published a study in which they explained that all stars and star-forming areas within 500 light-years of Earth are on the surface of a bubble, but not inside. Hence, providing insights that our solar system is in a void enveloped by a giant, still expanding cosmic bubble, known as the local bubble that stretches 1,000 light-years across. The notion of bubble is not exactly new. For decades, scientists have speculated its existence, but this time...
Oh, is that the firmament? The firmament is a bubble? Oh, God, dude. You Globins are just as dumb as the fucking the extremist flirps. Holy shit. Holy shit, you guys are dumb, you Globins, and the dome head flirps. Oh, my goodness. I told you guys you're part of the same religion. Okay, they guys got you babbling. If you guys ever read the story of the Tower of Babel, you idiots are that.
Scientists have observed the net, its shape, and how far it reaches. According to the scientists, the local bubble formed from a series of supernovae. Catherine Zucker, the study's lead author and astronomer at the Center for Astrophysics, explained that over the last 14 million years, explosions near the void's center have shot gas beyond space. The shockwave gathered gas and dust clouds into a thick, freezing, hollow shell that formed the local bubble's surface. By using data visualization software, astronomers created a map of the bubble. They showed
Jesus. Oh my goodness. Is that what's his name? From Lord of the Rings? What's the bad guy's name? I can't even think of his name, but that Zordov or whatever. Whatever. Oh my goodness. This is horrible. Oh, Globets, you guys are like, wow. I don't mean to keep like laughing at you guys, but this is horrible.
that it took at least 15 supernovae to burst and push gas this far. The clouds of gas and dust provided enough fuel for star-forming regions on the bubble's surface. Now, you might be thinking that if the bubble is caused by the explosions of supernovae, then how are we in the middle of it? João Alves, a University of Vienna astrophysicist, explains that when the first supernovae that created the local bubble went off, our sun was far away from the action. But about 5 million years ago, the sun's path through the galaxy took it right into the bubble, and now the sun sits just by luck.
That's some shit, fucking. He should have made it left at Albuquerque. He should have made a.
Almost right in the bubble's center. Research astronomer Zucker said the Earth was over 1,000 light years away when the local bubble first began to form. They believe the Earth entered the bubble around 5 million years ago, which is in line with other research estimates of radioactive ion isotope deposits from supernovae in the Earth's crust. According to data collected by the European Space Agency's Gaia, when the bubble first formed, it was moving at about 60 miles per second, and now the bubble is still expanding.
And look at the names that they use. Gaia. He used to use Gaia, and then Apollo is actually a god. They're like Apollo. No, and they're like, no, they just use this like symbolic. Like, yeah, that's what we're saying. They're using it as a symbolic way that they adopted some type of like religious thing and they did something else with it. And you guys are falling for it. Exactly like I explained about gravity. You had Isaac Newton saying mass attracts to mass, and then Einstein comes and says, no, that's all wrong, and he says something else totally different from what Einstein said. I mean, from what Newton said, but still names his own thing gravity as well. Oh God, this is horrible. This is all biblical stuff. All this is like a biblical fairy tale stories, and they add CGI to it. They change some words around. It's the same crap.
At 4 miles per second. And to our surprise, this is not the only bubble. Just like the stars on the surface of this bubble, there are multiple such clusters found in space. Study author and CFA astronomer Alyssa Goodman explained that more star-forming bubbles are likely to be found throughout the Milky Way. The sun would not be near the middle of a huge bubble if they were not common throughout the galaxy. These bubbles are even interacting with each other, with star-forming regions being at bubble intersections. Because of this, the Milky Way resembles very holy Swiss cheese, where holes in the cheese are blasted out by supernovae, and new stars can form in the cheese around the holes, created by dying stars. In an interview, Zucker even said,
I guess the moon really is made of cheese.
that the local bubble is just the one that we happen to be inside of at the moment. We think that the sun in its history has likely passed through many, many super bubbles. The team now intends to map out more intergalactic bubbles in order to obtain and complete 3D image of their locations, shapes, and sizes. Astronomers will eventually be able to grasp the role played by dying stars in the birth of new ones by mapping out bubbles and their relationships. Astronomers can also piece together how these bubbles work as nurseries for stars, how the bubbles interact with one another, and how galaxies like the Milky Way evolve through time by mapping out where the bubbles lay in the vast expanse of space. Coming toward the increase in density, one notion is that as the interstellar magnetic field lines pass over the heliopause, they become stronger. They could cause an electromagnetic ion cyclotron instability, causing the plasma in the draped region to be depleted. When Voyager 2 passed through the heliopause,
Maybe we should call Ghostbusters.
it detected a larger magnetic field than expected. Another idea proposes that material pushed by the interstellar wind slows as it approaches the heliopause, generating a traffic jam. This could have been observed by the New Horizons mission, which detected a faint ultraviolet glow. It was caused by a buildup of neutral hydrogen at the heliopause in 2018. Both theories can be true, but for this, more research is needed. For now, no matter what's with the density, this heliosphere is protecting us. As the solar wind travels across space, it creates a space environment rich in radiation and magnetic fields that recirculate back to the sun. Interstellar cosmic rays and coronal mass ejections, which are concentrated clouds of solar material that burst off the sun, also add to this space environment. This complex environment surrounds the planets and ultimately has a crucial effect on the formation, evolution, and density of the planetary systems. These rays can subtly affect airplanes that fly near the poles, often on trips between Europe or Asia and the US. For one thing, our heliosphere serves as a gigantic shield, shielding the planets from cosmic radiation from the Milky Way. What do you think would have happened to us without this bubble shield? Share your views in the comments section below, and have a great day.
That was just so stupid. Wow, that was dumb, dude. Holy crap. It missed us by 9 days. Okay, some more doom and gloom, or we could see something philosophical from Brian Cox and his cocksuckers. Yeah. Okay, if you believe anything if you believe the lies that Brian Cox says, then you, I mean, literally are a cocksucker. Holy crap, dude. 6 years ago, wow, 4 months ago. Some political science. 2 years ago. I guess 6 days ago. Well, that's 47 minutes long. That is 47 minutes long. 5 months. That's long too. You know, let's just go back up to the. Oh, there's another bubble. Is that another bubble? 2 months ago, the quantum dream, 41. What is gravity? That's 20 minutes long. I should go over that and destroy it, dissect it, tell everyone to. And it's not even me that's dissecting it. All they have to do is just read the Principia like I did out loud, and you start seeing what gravity is. Especially when you watch this crap about bubbles and stuff. Let's just do this one and call it a
In
quick one.
1859, there was a geomagnetic storm so big that the aurora was visible in Hawaii.
Holy wow.
They had telegraph systems. Some of the operators were reported to be able to send messages even when they weren't plugged into their batteries. They were just using the current generated from this geomagnetic storm. This thing was the largest geomagnetic storm in recorded history. It was called.
Okay, so at the IBW they do teach this. They do say that they in fact say that did happen. and they attributed a few deaths to the. I guess some of the lines actually caught on fire. Back then they didn't really understand too much about the grounding and all that, and so they caught they there was some pretty gruesome old photos and articles that you could read about. That I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find online somewhere, but in the IBAW they have them in they had them in books, and they talk about OSHA, why OSHA exists and stuff like that, and so apparently the first electricians were actually getting electrocuted all the time, and you would see them. There's pictures of them stuck on poles, and no safety gear, of course, back then. But yeah, they do teach that this did happen at the IBW, and again, it really wasn't electrical systems. It was mainly telegraph systems, and so yeah.
The Carrington event. A solar superstorm like this is not unusual. It could happen again today, and it would be way worse. Like, way worse. It would cost more than the top 10 natural disasters in the US combined to recover from. So yeah, these solar superstorms are getting more and more likely leading up to 2025. So first of all, that event is the same type of event that causes the aurora. The thing that we were chasing last night, the thing that we want to see tonight. Have you ever heard of solar cycle?
I never heard of that. However, Earth is definitely part of the electrical or the natural electrical cycle. Earth is part of the circuit, as is lightning. Lightning is also part of the circuit. Okay, this is part of this. Without Earth, there would be no electricity. Everyone needs to completely understand that Earth is definitely a big part of electricity and how it exists. Without Earth, electricity would not exist as it does, as we see it, and as we can use it and manipulate it the way we do.
The sun has these periods of activity where there's a period of when there are the most sunspots, and then periods of a little bit of calm about once every 11 years. Why every 11 years? Any guesses? Like, what happens every 11 years?
Seems very like nature to move in waves.
I was like, maybe it's a coincidence. It turns out that it's because on average every 11 years, the sun's north and south pole switch. So the Carrington event happened.
There really is not a north and south pole. And if you look online and you Google the North Pole really is the South Pole, you see that it's not really a north and south pole. Rather, it's a current flow is what it is. It's a directional flow. So there is no really a north or south, and you can name them whatever you want and back them around. When you play with magnets, you see this. So yeah, there's no really north or south, and even like I said, even under the globe theory, you can look up, you can Google, the North Pole is really the South Pole, and you'll see that what that's about.
Coming into the maximum of the 10th cycle of the sun, the 10th since 1755, when we started recording that the sun came in cycles. No one noticed that until they were able to see sunspots. Remember when we went to Mount Wilson Observatory and they were drawing sunspots on paper? That was some of the first telescopes that were ever used to look at solar spots. Do you even know what the sunspots are? Sounded like a very condescending question.
No.
Have you ever seen a picture of the sun with like all these lines? Those are all magnetic field lines. And if you have a ton of them going into the sun, that's where you'll see a sunspot. Sometimes those magnetic field lines can get like wrapped around each other and twisted, and sometimes they'll just like snap and break into more of a smooth kind of configuration. And when
she's very pretty and her voice is very nice, and then they add all these like CGIs to it, and it did that imagery and her beautiful voice and her beautiful cute self, that gets into your core memory bank, and for some reason you go to assume that this CGI is actually, what you're looking at when you see sunspots. If you go outside and you look up to try to find sunspots, they look like little dark dots on across the surface of of the celestial light that we call the sun, or that ancient Babylonian worshippers call Helios. So when they look at the sun, that's Helios. Yeah.
Happens, we see a solar flare. This pop, like this release.
I was really surprised because I just hadn't pictured it yet until we started talking about it. But when you said we missed a storm, it shot off in a direction.
It shot off in a direction. So every 11 years, you have more of a potential for a hit of a solar superstorm. And the last time, it missed us by 9 days because the sun was just facing the wrong way. So yeah, 2012 is the near miss, where a Carrington-sized event just missed Earth.
Wait, it happened in 2012?
2012.
The end of the world year? Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but the end of the world just missed. And it missed us by 9 days because the sun spins about every 20.
You guys heard that, right? Like, he literally related it right away, and she tried to be like, oh, yeah, and try to, like, move away from that. Because they're doing the same thing. They're predicting these, like, near apocalyptic misses and potential global catastrophes, and this. That's what she's doing as well with her own, with this show. Physics Girl's pretty cool. I like her. She's really pretty. And she is really intelligent. There's nothing like an intelligent, beautiful woman. And I mean, so I like to see it. And but here she's actually fear mongering with some sky worshipping nonsense.
25 days. It just happened to be not facing us by a 9-day miss. So we're now on the 25th solar cycle, and we're coming into the peak of it. You get increased solar flares, and you also get increased CMEs, or coronal mass ejections. Do you know what that is? It's like sun vomit.
I was about to say no, but I would love to mass eject. No.
Whenever you get that snapping, you release a lot of mass that shoots material off into space that we call the solar wind. It literally is mass because a bunch of SpaceX satellites just fell out of the sky when there was a big solar wind event.
Yeah, blame your god Helios for your failures. Come on now, we know those are not satellites, they're balloons. They're satelloons, we already know. They've been falling out. People have been recording them. They got helium. Of course, there's that Helios again. Helium. They got helium balloons, helium-filled balloons that pop and shit, or somehow lose their air and they fall out of the sky. Everyone has been recording them. So yeah, and I said it years ago. There's nothing floating around in space, especially if they themselves are saying that beyond our atmosphere, or the air atmosphere up in space, is full of plasma and electron per cubic meters and all kinds of, like, there's they sort of like electric fields. And all right, so if you have a metallic box floating around up there and it's not grounded to Earth, it's gonna get hit. It's gonna get caught up in between the arcs from that's supposedly coming from up there down to Earth, or whichever way you want to try to say it's going. Because I mean, you could see lightning on slow motion cameras. It's not only moving down from the sky, it's also moving up. It's basically a large shock, exactly like when you shock yourself with a carpet or a spark. It's basically a large spark. And so all of that is part of Earth. It's all part of Earth. So they themselves are saying that. So when you have some type of electronics floating around out there and it's not properly grounded to any, sooner or later its own frame. So you gotta you use the frame to ground it. Okay, sooner or later that frame that supposedly it's ground gets saturated with electrostatic. And that still causes shorts, electrical shorts. The short circuit is inevitable, everyone. The short circuit is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's as sure as death. Okay? It's as sure as death. Okay? There the electrostatic discharge and short circuits happen no matter what. Okay? Electrical ground is only slows that down or gives less possibility for that happening by being fully grounded. Even fully grounded, the short circuit happens.
Because the atmosphere literally became thicker. It became too dense and slowed down the satellites to the point where they couldn't recover and fell down to Earth and burned up the atmosphere. That just happened. So it's a big deal when the sun's magnetic field flips. For us, what it means is these periods of heightened and potentially extreme solar activity. So the peak of the solar cycle will happen in 2025. So that means increasing solar activity right now, which means a higher chance of seeing auroras. We've got some solar wind coming, a geomagnetic storm coming. The aurora is going to come. Oh, dogs!
We went dog sledding!
What would mostly happen when a solar storm occurs is that fortunately nothing happens to our bodies, but things do happen to our electrical systems because it's a bunch of charged particles.
Wow, that is totally debatable. I mean, if that's truly happening, I mean, our nervous systems are electrical. You have electrical brain activity. Your heart is actually also working on electrical signals. So that, you know what I mean? What she says is kind of, contradictory of what she's saying right there.
During the Carrington event, this was before even the U.S. Civil War, so there were only telegraphs. And the telegraph systems were sparking. It's like using your computer and getting shocked through the keyboard. Some of them were catching...
I'll say it again. AT&T stands for American Telegraph and Telephone. So AT&T goes all the way back to the beginning. AT&T started in telegraph. All the electrical companies and all that, all the electricians... When you go to learn at the Electrical Training Institute, and you're going through the sound communications apprenticeship, you see that the IBEW was started by electricians, but the electrician industry was actually an extension of the telegraph system. It was because of telegraph that everything else evolved into what we have today.
On fire. Some people were seeing like these amazing swirling colors, but it was visible in Havana, Cuba, in Key West, Florida, and some people thought that their cities were on fire, so it was a predominantly red glow all over the sky. Before we find out how solar superstorms affect us, a quick message. Thanks to Omaze for sponsoring this video. Omaze is bringing you the opportunity to win Tesla's most sought after, top of the line flagship SUV and support Give Power and 501c3. More about them in a minute. So supercar stats don't immediately come to mind when you hear SUV, but that's exactly what the brand new Tesla Model X Plaid brings. Think versatility, but with style and power, and an all new interior and updated exterior styling. Whatever you want to do, wherever you want to go, be the first to get there with 1,000.
So there we have the commercialism, which is basically Admiralty law. I've explained that already. Admiralty, maritime law, and commercialism. And then you see they showed the Tesla at the ports to let it be known that it's an international thing. It's open to, maritime, and it's subject to maritime law because that's how it's being moved across from country to country internationally. As she's giving out this commercial, and she's explaining, this stuff about electrical during a show that's about plasma and electrical and all this other stuff. And in the back of all that, you see the globe. She not only has Globus Earth next to an very old lamp, electrical lamp, and above that is a bigger sphere. Just like, the bubbles on the bubbles. So that the bigger sphere probably represents um the celestial sphere, the main one, the one that the god Atlas holds up. No, god Atlas does not hold up globe Earth. Okay, he's holding up the celestial sphere, which is all of the basically the heliopause is what they're calling it now.
20 horsepower, taking you a quarter mile in 9.9 seconds and 313 miles of range. And then sit back and watch a movie under the stars with your 17-inch cinematic display and glass panoramic roof. The wait list for this Tesla is currently 6 months, but you can jump that line faster than this SUV can go 0 to 60.
Looks like
That's
Long Beach,
2.5 seconds. Your donation will support Give Power and 501c3. Give Power is on a mission to help the roughly 2.2 billion people around the world who do not have access to safely managed drinking water. 501c3 is a new type of nonprofit for the younger generation focused on energy, food, water, and shelter. For your chance to win a Tesla Model X Plaid and support a great cause, go to omaze.com/physicsgirl. And now back to solar superstorms. So when a solar storm occurs, all this mass is ejected from the sun and heads toward us. Do you know why that creates the aurora?
No.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Do you know why neon signs light up?
Neons? No.
When you put a high voltage across a gas, that gives the electrons in the gas enough energy to fly off. When the electrons come back together with the gas that they flew off of, it'll emit a little bit of light. That's it. With the aurora, it's very similar. You've got all this.
That is very debatable. It's debatable to that. Does light emit? Just that alone. I mean, if you Google that, wow, you could it leads on to like a rabbit, the rabbit's hole for reals. It literally, you could look it up. Does light emit? That's very debatable.
Mass of hot plasma raining down on Earth from the sun, and they'll bump electrons off of the gas in the atmosphere, and then those electrons will come back together with their atoms and they'll release light.
So the electrons bump off the gas in the atmosphere.
Exactly. Earth is like a neon sign. In fact, you can actually detect the rays coming down from space with fluorescent light bulbs. There was a guy at CERN that took a fluorescent light bulb and he was able to see like, oh, we're getting cosmic rays coming down because he's getting flashes of light inside the fluorescent bulb. Yeah.
So we're just blown away at the spectacle
Yeah.
of like the Earth's defenses as it keeps like
Destructive.
solar wave
Yeah.
hitting us.
Exactly.
We're like, ooh,
Like,
pretty.
oh, it's so gorgeous. Do you know what causes the different colors? You change the gas that's inside the tube.
Whoa.
Remember how they talked about there's sometimes purples and reds and greens, and they happen in different layers of the atmosphere? The reason why is because it's different gases at different altitudes of the atmosphere.
It's where all those pretty shots of space come where you can see the aurora
Yes.
sticking off like hair. It's like
Exactly. So we've been tracking the northern lights for the last week because we've been here in Fairbanks, Alaska, trying to see them. But there's a website we've been following where you can look at the KP index. Basically, 2 upward, you can kind of see the northern lights. Then a 5 is good northern lights. That's what we got last night. It was amazing. They kind of correspond to storm classes. So a KP5 like last night is actually considered a G1 class storm. So that could potentially do some damage. It could cause your lights flickering, minor satellite disruptions. And then G5 is potentially widespread power outages, failures of transformers. They just build up too.
See what she's saying? Like failures of transformers and failure of electronics and they just literally showed the fake ISS floating up there. She already said that satellites fall out of orbit. Come on. It's totally stupid. It's totally naive to assume that the government is floating up in the skies, looking down upon us from the heavens, like there's some type of angels, or they can see everything from up there, and they look down upon us, and they know what's best for us because they can look down upon us. Like, come on, that's fucking stupid. That is just as dumb as any biblical fairy tale story where they're like, yeah, they have a direct connection to the heavens, you know what I mean? And we're supposed to just believe them. I have no reason to believe, especially after knowing all the electrical theory that I know of and knowing that the short circuit is inevitable. There's no way of stopping a short circuit. It will happen. Ground only slows down that. It only slows down that process. Okay? That's all it does. It only prolongs the inevitability. That's it.
Much charge to the point where they'll blow, create fires, potentially have grid blackouts, electrical grid collapse. So this entire city could just collapse. Not the buildings, but we would lose power in the entire city. And something like that happened in 1989 in Quebec. There was 6 million people that lost power, and it was not brought back up for 9 to 12 hours. Again, that wasn't even the largest type of solar storm that could happen. You wouldn't be able to track on your GPS. You have no refrigerator. You have no Xbox. You have no washing machine, no dryer, no computer. You wouldn't be able to charge your vehicle if we're moving more toward electric.
According to them, they're saying that even like your solenoid, if you're driving one of these gas combustible vehicles, you have a solenoid or in some of the electrical parts, especially now with these electrical cars, and so they're saying that it destroy even if it's off. So even if your that device is off, and supposedly one of these these monster solar storms. If Helios throws a tantrum and spits, electrons at us and fries, they're saying that even stuff that's not on gets fried. Now, these bankers and some supposedly, from what I've read, not just especially in the telecom industry, they have these vaults, these large vaults that are basically they're called Faraday cages. And they protect all the electrons. So even if this were to happen, a large, heliocentric tantrum, heliogod tantrum, where he gets mad and spits out his, electrons and photons at us, and he fries everything. There's enough supposedly electronics to get everything back up and running, and this is one of the reasons why, people should take an interest in electrical theory. Like that Faraday cages are easy to build. You could build one. Anyone can actually easily build one. You should be able to build one of those put it next to your personal safe, and or maybe if you could build one that fits inside of a safe, even better. Have an extra phone in there. I don't know if they still have SIM cards in other places. Long Beach, California, and Los Angeles, no one has SIM cards anymore. Most of these phones you can't open and manipulate them, and so I mean you can, but it's not like you can click a button, pull out the SIM card, and then swap it out. But yeah, so supposedly I've read enough articles that these vaults supposedly do exist, and these storms supposedly do happen, but it's not as bad as she's making it sound, and the reason this is the reason why electrical ground is so important, and this is the reason why that I defend grounding everything that you can properly when it comes to all electrical systems, especially telecommunication systems. So I always advise all my clients on all the job sites, if I see one of their devices that are not electrically grounded, I do push it forward, and also in the hopes that it comes back to me as another, because I'm not gonna go and do a out of scope work. I could advise them, and I'll be like, yeah, send me another ticket, just to generate more work for myself. But at the same time, it is important, and this is one main reason why it's important to have electrical ground systems properly installed throughout all large cities.
Electric vehicles, and the grid goes down, which is terrifying. Anything that's plugged in, or your computer might get fried, your camera might get fried, if it's plugged into something. Chances are the smaller electronics wouldn't be as affected. If there's evidence of a solar flare incoming, one of the best things to do would be to unplug all of your shit. So the economic impacts of something like the Carrington event, $2.6 trillion is one of the estimates. $2.6 trillion, and it could potentially take 4 to 10 years to recover from.
Why?
because the grids go down. Once you damage that much critical infrastructure, it takes a long time not only to make that, but to repair it all. It's a serious problem. This is something that scientists have been warning about for such a long time. One of the reasons that putting safeguards and...
Wrong. The IBEW, and especially in Cal, I can't speak for other states or other countries, but here in California, wow, IBEW is on the job. There's no stopping IBEW. They are everywhere. They do everything, and from especially now that they took over the sound communications with the VDV industry and then the fire life safety industry. That's another reason why that fire life safety certification is so important, because you come to understand that fires and the life safety is all relative to this electrical theory. Anything could cause a fire. Like I said, ground is very, very important. But maybe in like other countries where they maybe they don't practice. From my understanding, California is part of United States. United States is supposed to follow the National Electrical Code, and so it is proper grounding procedures is a big part, very, very huge part within the IBW, and at the Electrical Training Institute that I went to. There's also there's every IBW has a local Electrical Training Institute. If it's not an ETI, it's something else that is still about electrical theory. So yeah, it's important. It's important that everything be grounded for reals.
Boosting our electrical infrastructure is so crucial. We think of this as such a modern society where like the problems of the past don't affect us, but in fact this is a problem that affects us more now because we rely so much on electrical based technology. It wouldn't have affected Cleopatra.
I'm buying some candles tonight.
I'm not a doomsday kind of person, but like we need to boost our infrastructure. Scientists want to figure out how likely it is for one of these storms to hit us again. And they looked at the last 150 years and they found that there were 6, quote, great solar superstorms, which is the most powerful type of solar superstorm. Because this is not an unlikely event. Anyway, that's how the aurora works. These are the biggest solar storms in recorded history and the near misses. So...
Well, I said this before and you laughed, but that is so much more interesting than I thought it would be.
Hey, it won't let me like it. Oh, I wonder why. Whatever. I'm not gonna dislike it. Okay, so there it is, everyone. We went over the bubble, the space bubble, and we went over some electrical theory. Great time on news reviews. I'll see you guys later. Do you even science, bro?